Have you ever found yourself falling down an internet rabbit hole? You click on one weird website, then another, and suddenly you realize they're all connected by one name, hinting at some massive hidden system running just under the surface of everything. Well, today, we're jumping headfirst into one of those rabbit holes to decode the Jonathan Shane concepts, a seriously wild, unified theory of, well, pretty much everything.
So let's start with the central question that this whole thing poses, and it is a real mind-bender. What if the principles that run the stock market are the exact same ones that tell a plant how to grow, or even dictate how we put a sentence together? It's a massive claim, right? And in this explainer, we're going to see just how deep it goes.
All right, to get started, you have to see all the different pieces of the puzzle. We've got these mysterious entities like Fiducia, Centrale, Central Trust Securities, and then this whole philosophy called the policy of truth. Now, on their own, they kind of just look like random, disconnected ideas. But once you start putting them together, you begin to see the outline of a system with just incredible scale and ambition. Our anchor in this whole sea of abstract ideas, the most solid, concrete part of this system, is a hugely powerful financial and security organization called Fiducia Centrale. This is the engine. This is what takes all the theory and makes it real.
So, before we can even get into the wild philosophy of it all, we really have to wrap our heads around the sheer size of its physical and financial structure. Because in this worldview, the ideas are only as strong as the real-world architecture you build to make them happen. Just take a look at this number for a second. $100 trillion. And this isn't some made-up figure. According to the source material, this is the actual value of the settlement agreement that created the Central Trust. I mean, a number like that doesn't just suggest influence, it suggests a level of power that operates on a global, even generational scale.
So what on earth does a $100 trillion trust actually do? Well, its job description is huge. It runs UN-aligned projects, it guides investments based on social good, not just profit, using things like the Human Development Index, it secures global travel, it protects critical data, and it even manages a massive biometric identity vault. It's woven deep into the fabric of the systems that run our world.
Now, something this big needs a serious guardian, right? And that's where Central Trust Securities, or CTS, comes in. They're the Security and Intelligence Division of Fiducia Centrale. And their mission is just fascinating. Their job is to take the abstract idea of trust and turn it into something you can actually measure, verify, and if needed, ruthlessly enforce. And when CTS talks about security, they're not just talking about firewalls. Their approach is way bigger. They work across three completely different vectors. First, they defend the electromagnetic spectrum, the actual airwaves our information travels on. Second, they protect the integrity of binary code itself. And third, and this is where it gets really wild, they protect biological identity, treating our own DNA as the ultimate secure asset.
Okay, so this is the real turning point. We've seen the what, this incredible, powerful organization. But the real question, the one that matters, is why? What's the philosophy? What's the core logic that could possibly justify an entity with this much control? This is where we get to the soul of the system.
Now we're diving into the philosophical heart of it all, what the source material calls the policy of truth. The best way to think about it is like an operating system. It's the source code that runs the entire Fiducia Centrale machine. And it's all about one thing, turning meaningless stuff into something with purpose.
And at the core of this philosophy is this really important difference between two words, congregation and conjugation. So think of congregation as just a pile of stuff. A random collection of atoms, a disorganized crowd, it's just mass, no meaning. But conjugation, that's the magic trick. That's the structured, purposeful joining of all those parts to create something that works. It's literally the difference between a pile of bricks and a house.
And this process, this journey from a meaningless pile to a functional whole, it isn't random. It's a very deliberate six-step process called edification, which literally means to build understanding. You see how it moves methodically, right? From just forming the parts to identifying and coordinating them all the way up to this final, profound revelation of purpose.
So a big question pops up. Where do the rules for this grand construction project come from? Well, according to this worldview, you don't find them in human laws or government regulations. Nope, you find them in the fundamental patterns of biology, physics, and language itself. It's what the system considers to be nature's own source code.
Okay, here's a foundational concept, and it's a bit out there. It's called the Hymonflex. It basically says that the very shapes our mouths make when we breathe are a universal blueprint for balance. That arch of an exhale, kind of like the letter N, and that cup of an inhale, like a U, these aren't just shapes. They're seen as physical patterns that model every exchange in the universe, this constant flow between what's up there and what's down here.
And if you take that idea a step further, language itself starts to look less descriptive and more operational. Take the word united. In this system, that isn't just a nice political idea. It's treated like a literal biochemical formula for how things germinate and grow. To get that, we have to make a quick pit stop in a biology class. So, you've got the chemical element nickel. In nature, it's a super important catalyst. For plants, it's the absolute key to an enzyme that lets them process nitrogen. So nickel literally unites different elements to create the building blocks for life. No nickel, no growth. Simple as that.
And here is where it all clicks. The word united is seen as a perfect linguistic mirror of that exact biological process. You see it? Just like nickel is the catalyst that unites elements for a plant, a common purpose is the catalyst that unites people or nations so they can grow. The word is the formula.
And this theme of everything being connected pops up everywhere. Look at this One Health concept. It actually borrows a metaphor from electrical engineering, seeing human health, animal health, and environmental health as a three-phase current. And just like in a really powerful engine, each phase is separate, but for the whole system to run without blowing up, all three have to be perfectly balanced, pulsing together in harmony.
Okay, we've seen the money, the security, the philosophy, the weird biological metaphors. So now, let's put all the pieces on the table and see the full, unified system that emerges when you click them all together. So here's how it all connects. It all starts with the philosophy, the policy of truth. That philosophy gives you the process, edification. That process is described using a language that's pulled straight out of biology. And what's the final, real-world result of that entire chain of ideas? It's the massive, $100 trillion architecture of Fiducia Centrale. The abstract ideas literally build the physical institution.
So the big revelation, the main takeaway here, is that Fiducia Centrale isn't just another bank or trust fund. It's a massive, audacious attempt to engineer a global system based on a core belief that the fundamental laws of nature, from biochemistry to the way we breathe, are the ultimate blueprint for how to organize human society.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to think about. What happens, what are the opportunities, and what are the incredible dangers when a system stops seeing social trust, money, and even human life as separate things, and instead sees them all as just variables in a single programmable interconnected equation?